I'm William Shatner. I've done a lot of things in my career, but this takes the cake. This is so cool. You, Joseph, today, it's all about you. You won the internet. Congratulations. It's exciting. It makes me want to celebrate. Makes me want to get up out of this chair. Makes me want to sing. Makes me want to dance. Makes me want to shout. Kick my heels up. Throw my hands up. Toss my head back. No, really, people should be shouting your name in the street.
Come on now. Sing
that song.
Joseph,
Sing it out loud.
Joseph.
I want to celebrate. Put it up in lights. See, no one else deserves to be celebrated like you because you are the best.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Me, Tom Arnold, I am very famous. I absolutely like, because it's very true. Like, I hadn't freaking heard of you until I was sitting on a Friday night. This is how bad my life is. Listen, fucker, good luck. Good luck with your rebranding. Like anybody knew what the name was before. What was the name? Okay, who gives a shit? That's a good name because it's got your name in it. You can pretend you're humble. You say, I'm not famous. And, which you aren't. So you're just, I mean, anyway, but I hope you get famous doing this. Good luck to you.
When it comes to chicken, I'm your guy.
Blinking.
I'll have what Joseph has.
Look, somebody's talking about you.
This is what we call the voice of God.
Popping.
Everybody just gets to focus on you.
Grab me.
Probably not the best thing for an introvert.
I'm asking for you.
Well, I like a good chicken sandwich.
Touch me. Hi, David. Comment.
Oh my God.
Like.
You're actually an identical twin.
Push.
Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be
No.
an identical twin.
Pick me up.
No, you didn't.
Shouting.
Surprise! Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text.
There's an edit for your new opening, Joseph.
I feel really honored to have been here, man.
But by the way, you've done a masterful job. Seriously.
And it was such a joy.
Thanks, Joseph. It's an honor.
Good on you. This was a pleasure.
I mean, you are the prime example of how to pivot in this new environment.
I wish everybody gets an opportunity to interact with Joseph Jaffe.
Who needs Cameo when I've got my own personal Cameo? Why am I so low? Let's raise the bar, or let's lower the screen. Let's raise my head. There you go. That looks a little bit better. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Joseph Jaffe's Not Famous. I have so many in the can right now that I don't know if I should tell him. He may not want to hear this. Ryan Estes, my guest, the man with great hair. Crushing it at the moment. But Ryan, your episode isn't going to go officially live until, April. Can you believe that? Can you wait? Can you wait until April 5th or April 12th or something like that? But don't worry, we will leak. We will leak it out. We will make sure that some of the highlights find their way to you. But anyway, we are back and we're talking selling, we're talking human-centric leadership, we're talking nuts, we're talking a whole bunch of things, more to come soon. But first of all, as you know, I begin with my why statement. As a teacher, facilitator, and coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership team. So if you're low aspiring, go somewhere else, get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever change. What does that mean when we talk about get unstuck? Well, I started the show as Corona TV, March 2020, when people were literally stuck at their homes or stuck in general. And the idea, of course, if you're stuck is get unstuck. And if you want to get unstuck every single week when we do a new episode, please subscribe to the show at bit.ly/subscribe to the show. When it comes to growth, I started business and leadership coaching in 2023. Using EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, helping small and medium businesses, privately held businesses, get what they want. And it's got to be all about growth at the end of the day, right? And growth isn't just about market share and top line and bottom line. Sometimes it's about growing up. Sometimes it's about prioritization in order to actually make a difference in this world, become forever change. The title of my new book, How a Global Pandemic Changed My Direction, My Purpose, and my life. Now, of course, if that's not enough, I need to do more. It's like Oliver Twist. Please, sir, I want some more. Well, every Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I hang out in the Collective Cafe in an audio-first environment where we do live book reads. In fact, I think we might have to read Ryan's new book at some point as well. We're never splitting the difference coming up and just hanging out, crucial conversations, just having a whale of a time reading books that help us develop our mindset, develop our leadership skills, and develop our selling skills as well. Right now, in Crucial Conversations, we just read about the pool of shared meaning, and I actually created a little fable called The Pool of Shared Meaning. Really interesting about how to make sure everyone comes to the table and can provide their meaning into a collective pool of shared meaning. And if you can't make the show live or the mornings live, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can subscribe to the pod, bit.ly/Collective Cafe to go. One of these Fridays, we will be doing a best of this very episode, and maybe we'll even get Ryan to come and join us. But first, it's time for our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today is called Sell Side. Get it? Not sell side, but sell. Breathe out. Sell side. For many, many years, when I was delivering keynotes in over 50 countries, would always talk about the great riddle, the great, the ultimate question of questions, the Oedipus, the other Oedipus, the traveler, would encounter this ferocious beast, this phoenix, this kraken, I guess, and would be asked a question: what has 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening? I'm sure you know the answer, Ryan, in the green room. The answer is man. 4 legs in the morning as a baby, 2 legs in the afternoon as an adult, and 3 legs in the evening as a member of the AARP. And I wondered, does marketing, does selling, does business have that ultimate riddle, which if you got it right, you could pass, you could survive and thrive, and if you got it wrong, you got your head bitten off. And I came up with this resolve, which is people hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. Why is it that people hate to be sold to, but they love to buy? How do you resolve this apparent contradiction that we don't like to be sold to, but we like to buy? And I came to the ultimate conclusion. I'm sure, again, Ryan has an answer, but my answer was, when we really want something, when we want something, as opposed to being told to buy something, and when there is a relationship involved, and when there is trust involved, we don't look at the person on the other end as an adversary, as an opponent, as someone trying to cheat us or get us to not read the small print sign on the dotted line, be tricked through all these selling techniques to close. We see them as a partner. We see them as meeting us halfway. When we don't see them as a salesperson, we're not being sold to, and therefore when we're buying, we are actually working with them together. That was my resolve. I have to tell you that throughout my life and my career, the 2 hardest things I've ever done in my life, which ironically I do almost every day, is to be an entrepreneur and to be a seller. When I was in the agency world, I didn't know what it was to sell. I only knew what it was to buy and be showered with gifts and boondoggles and be courted by all the salespeople and all the reps, until I went out on my own and realized how goddamn hard it is to sell. And let me tell you, if there's one final point to share with you, everyone is a seller. We're always selling. We just may not know it. Everyone has a boss. Everyone has someone above them. Every single one is a buyer, and that makes us a seller. And so we better get comfortable with it. As Andy Dufresne might have said, get busy living or get busy dying. In this case, get busy selling or get busy dying. And now, on that note, on that dramatic note, it's time to let's change and bring some better music as we welcome Ryan Estes. Ryan Estes is a globally recognized sales and leadership expert, keynote speaker, the #1 best-selling author and co-founder of Impact 11, and was recently recognized by Meetings and Conventions magazine as one of the best keynote speakers seen or heard. A former Fortune 500 chief revenue officer, Ryan has spent his career in the trenches, leading high-performance teams and building a client roster of category-leading brands. His new book, Prepare for Impact, unpacks 30 steps to achieve ambitious sales goals and 9 tactics of how leaders can help teams achieve their full potential and find fulfillment at work in life. And if you expect to get all 30 steps today, you are sorely mistaken, but maybe you'll just get a little glimpse. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Joseph, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and thanks for the lovely intro. I also have to share, I'm excited to read your book after that tee up. I went through a pretty big transformation during the pandemic also. I mean, I think a lot of people did. And so I think it's great that you're writing about that and sharing your journey.
I want to hear all about it. And, you know, the message in the book is actually, if you didn't seize this opportunity, if you didn't during this period of time change forever for the better, then you wasted an opportunity. And I even use the concept of quantum superposition, which is two things that are diametrically opposed, this disgusting, terrible, awful, tragic event that could also be this cocoon, this chrysalis. Then the message is, but don't worry, there's still time through a formula of amor, veritas, and vigor. Love what you do, be true to yourself, and stay the course.
I love it. Beautiful.
That's the spiel, but enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of that resolve, this idea of, you know, this question of people love to buy, but they hate being sold to? How do you interpret that, and how do you solve for it?
Well, I think it's precisely right. I mean, there's research around that too. I think it's Harvard research. 94% of a purchasing decision is actually unconscious, or it's very emotional. And so the best salespeople really view themselves as, I think, as selling as an act of service. It's not something you're doing to someone. It's a process through which you help somebody make the very best decision for themselves. So I think that, you know, the best salespeople are really focused on customer experience and outcomes. It's about helping somebody get what they want, or deploying your expertise in a way that helps somebody make the right decision. And so we help customers make better decisions. And if you view it through that lens, I think it sort of mitigates some of the discomfort that you sort of spoke about as well. I mean, it's really an act of service, and if you do it right, it's very altruistic also.
I was thinking the other day, yesterday I was driving, and I was thinking to myself, this was the narrative forming in my brain. I was thinking, I want to go to, so it jumbled together and it came out something like this. I want to go to the prospective client, and my thought was, what do my existing clients know that you don't? What is it that got them to choose me, or to buy this, or to buy into, or believe in, so much so that they're thriving and doing so well? What is it that you don't know? What is it that you refuse to know or don't wish to know? And in my mind, it was very clear. And when I spoke it, it just came out like blah, 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 blah. But there was this kind of thought about, how do you create this portal, this bridge between the happy customer and the confused, jaded, skeptical, wary, untrusting prospect?
The bridge is through a deep level of understanding. So I think you're down the right path. And I think to continue down the path, the next part of what's important to consider is really tapping into some deep understanding about what this particular prospective customer wants and needs. And there may be nuances, and there may be points of differentiation. So the path to doing that, it's less about what you say and more about what you know. So I like to the axiom I like to use is selling is asking, not telling. It's listening, not talking. So the people innately have a deep desire to feel seen, heard, understood, and valued. And so the best salespeople ask better questions. They ask more questions. They navigate their conversations through questions and active and perceptive listening. And what you're doing is you're co-creating an experience where you're both participating and arriving at the solution together. So a good sales conversation should be about 60% of the time should be spent listening, 40% of the time should be spent talking. And there's a technique to do this in a way that I think really sort of elevates trust and safety. And it's called looping to understand. It's just a simple technique. I mean, anybody could use it. And the technique is you ask a question, you summarize what you heard. So it would be in this particular case. So Joseph, what I heard you say was, and then the third step in the loop is then to ask for clarification. Did I get that right? And if you do that, I think people feel validated and they feel understood. And I think that's a really important. So that's the bridge. And then, when you get them halfway across the bridge, then it's appropriate when it's your turn to talk is to go to where you went, which is because you said, I would recommend, and I have another client who, was in almost the same situation you were in, and we did this, and this was the result. And you could see how that invites a connection. And it helps the customer, the prospective customer, feel very validated, very valued, very understood. So that's the path to helping people make better decisions, which I really think is what our job is all about.
So let me understand if I got that right, if I heard you correctly. What you were saying is, you see what I just did there? A little bit of
you learn quick.
Would it be a terrible thing if I could help you solve that problem, Ryan?
No, it'd be a wonderful thing.
Yes.
And by the way, who could say no to that?
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's
I love it. 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 And I love it in that order. Please look out for Ryan's new book. Did I get that right? Stories from the trenches about effective selling techniques. I kind of like that as a book, by the way.
Well, it's not a bad idea at all. It's not a bad idea at all. One of us should run with that idea.
But seriously, did I get that right? No, I'm joking. All right. So from the sublime to the ridiculous, because now that you're getting to know Ryan, the question is, do you know the real Ryan? And after this, you may not know the real Ryan because it's time for... Can you guess which is which? Can you guess? Can you guess which one is which? And like all good salespeople. Joseph Javin, I'm famous, but you'll see. You gotta believe the lies. We twist, we turn in search of reality. I'm just kidding. Ryan, are you ready to play Two Truths and a Lie?
I'm ready.
So this began, funnily enough, as just 3 fun facts about my guest. And I always try to find something within those fun facts that could be relevant because you learn so much about them. Interestingly enough, when we talk about partnership and relational buying as well, I'm a huge believer of eulogy virtues as opposed to resume virtues. So in this particular case, we're going to be a little sneaky, and one of these is going to be a lie, and the other 2 are going to be truthful. So apparently, according to rumors, you love to wake surf. And I'm not really, by the way, your hair stays perfect throughout this process, which is, it's clearly a gift. So I'm assuming wake surfing means surfing in a wake.
That's exactly right. The boat creates the wake based on taking on water. It's a special kind of boat. So it's weighted to one side, which then produces a wake or a wave, and you actually surf behind the boat.
So I obviously got it completely wrong. I thought it was some kind of an Irish funeral where a lot of Jameson whiskey was involved, and that's what surfing meant. But clearly, I need to get out more often, is what we're saying.
Well, and I live in the land of 10,000 lakes. I live in Minnesota, so that it's an appropriate summer activity in Minnesota.
All right. So when he's not out on the lake, because apparently it gets kind of chilly during the winter in Minnesota. Here's an interesting fact, whether this is truthful or not. You've apparently mastered techniques that allow you to experience time at a different pace, slowing down or speeding up your perception of moments, something called time dilation. I know what pupil dilation is, but seriously, are you a little bit of a rocket science? What the hell is going on here?
Well, you talked about the quantum world, right? So there's the three-dimensional world, which where most of reality exists. And then that's not all that's going on here. There's the quantum world. And so by connecting your energy to the quantum, you can actually use the word slow down. Another way to think about it would be to stretch the space-time continuum. And what you end up doing, I mean, this is a very rudimentary explanation, but you end up experiencing time in a different way.
I will tell you, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but I am interested. And if you think you've figured Ryan out, wait until the third factoid comes your way. But all you have to do is go to bit.ly/2T1L_Ryan Estes, and you might win $1 billion, which of course, most likely is a lie. Ryan, I do have an interesting follow-up question on this, which is when we think about the greats, we think about athletes, we think about maybe great salespeople as well, great leaders. There's definitely this common thread of being able to slow things down.
Correct.
Whether that's time dilation or time dilution. But I think there is an interesting nugget here about what it is to be able to calm everything and slow everything and gain perspective.
All right, I'm gonna build on this because now we're down a path that's super interesting. So,
see,
just I think it was 2 nights ago, the Los Angeles Lakers played the Los Angeles Clippers, and it was a great game. And in the fourth quarter, the Lakers were down by quite a lot, and LeBron James led this extraordinary comeback. And you know that afterwards they were interviewing him. The Lakers won, and of course, you know he's on, you know, he's been in the NBA 20 years. They're asked, like, how could you perform like this at this stage of your career and life? And he talked about being in the flow or the zone. He said, you know, every once in a while, as in a great athlete, you said, experiences, they're in this flow state where everything feels connected. And it's almost as if everything else around you slows down and you can almost see ahead of time. And part of what you said is right. It's slowing ourselves down and it's getting connected. And so it's being very, very present. Breath work is a great way to get there, meditation, but you enter this state of connection where you're immersed in what you're doing. And so you slow your mind down to focus your mind. And in some cases, people do, as LeBron James did the other night, experiences time differently. And you'll hear athletes say it. Is this you'll hear musicians say it, artists say it. I've experienced it occasionally when I'm speaking. Everything else around me slows down and it feels like I'm just moving through space. And that's what he experienced the other night. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself, is it flow state or is it slow state, right? It's a little bit of both. But here's something that you may not want to actually operate very, very slowly, which is your third fun fact, true or not true, is that you are allergic to nuts. And this is not you. This is no, it isn't. But that would be one hell of
an allergy if that occurred, right?
I know. You know, I put this one in because this is actually, I don't know if you recognize the screenshot, but Uber Eats, I believe it was Uber Eats during the Super Bowl, had a spot. And I think, and the creative was something along the lines of sometimes in order to remember something, you have to forget something else. And in this case, clearly he forgets that he's allergic to nuts. Now, there was some controversy and backlash with respect to this, and they had to take it out and recut it. I didn't quite understand it. I understand why there would be, I mean, such backlash, but yet there was. And
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, I guess if there's a weird first of all, by the way, apparently you're allergic to nuts. But so no nuts for you, no soup for you, no nuts for you. What are the nuts that you are allergic to?
Cashews and pistachios.
So you know that, funnily enough, whether that's true or not, my daughter is allergic to 2 nuts, which are cashews and pistachios.
That's interesting. That's real. So I've never heard of another person being allergic. I can eat peanuts, I can eat almonds, macadamia nuts, just those 2. And so I've never heard of another person.
Literally those 2. Yeah,
that's
literally.
So interesting. Yeah, I know other people with nut allergies, but it's usually all or peanuts or whatever. But interesting.
Yeah, what made the story even more interesting is that she was going through a vegan stage of her life, and so try and be vegan and have a nut allergy.
Oh yeah, you got to be real careful about what you're eating. Correct.
So they make a lot of substitutes with the cashews, and
cashew butter is a big ingredient in a lot of those recipes too.
Needless to say, she eats meat again. So
good for her.
There you go. Look, this is the kind of impact you don't want to make in life, which is the impact of allergies. But certainly the impact you do want to make is preparing for impact. Ryan, I'm assuming Chad is in some way, shape, or form related to you.
Yeah, he's my brother. We wrote the book together. It was a lot of fun.
And you prevented him from coming on the show today, which is
we keep him off the podcasts. That's exactly right. This is my role. Chad, actually, yeah, he's great. He was great with writing the book. I think as much as the book is about business, sales, and leadership, there's also a through line, a thread, which is specific to relationships. And it's really an underpinning of the book. And we're very, very close. And Chad has a cool job. He runs the business of the Dallas Cowboys. So it doesn't have anything to do with the players or the team and the coaches, et cetera. But in terms of business and revenue, he's the executive vice president of business operations. So there's some great stories in the book about their business, and it sort of served as a great case study. And it was a real fun project to work on with him.
So wait, let me understand that correctly. You're telling me that actually owning a multi-billion-dollar franchise is a business? That it's not just about pigskin balls being, thrown around in the field?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe, in fact, the business of sports. So Jerry Jones purchased the Cowboys in the late 80s for $187 million. And today the franchise is approaching a $10 billion valuation. So I'd say those kind of returns absolutely qualifies it as a pretty serious business. So yeah.
So let me ask you a question about appreciation, because we hear these. First of all, Jerry Jones clearly not a bad businessman.
No,
but any franchise bought during that time, one would imagine, has had also some pretty good growth. You also think about.
Yeah, without question. I think what makes the Cowboys unique is, they're the most valuable franchise, not just in the NFL, but in all of sport, but by quite a margin. So it's an interesting conversation about why are the Cowboys America's team? Why are they, a multitude, a multiple of, 2 to 5x more valuable than any other NFL team, than any other sports franchise in the world. That becomes sort of the conversation and the story about innovation and what they've done differently. So,
well, I had a client once upon a time when I used to consult in Dallas. I think they were in Plano, maybe. And so we went a couple of times to that incredible facility.
That's amazing.
That membership club.
Yeah.
And went there to a couple of restaurants and just saw the facilities, indoor, outdoor. Wow.
Yeah, it's a special place. It's over a decade old now, but at the time, they built the best sports stadium in the world. And I think took a lot of the lessons and the learning and then created what you're referring to, which is the complex called the Star, where they have the private club and the corporate headquarters and the restaurants and the retail. And, you know, they turned a football team into they activated it into an entertainment company where fans can really immerse themselves and experience the Cowboys 365 days a year. So pretty cool. A lot of cool collabs around that too.
So I'm gonna use two words that I'm hearing from you, and I'm not doing the technique now, but I'm literally playing back. There's this word of elevation, and then there's this word of appreciation, and I'll go back to the second word first. When I was talking about buying this franchise, if you or I were buying, let's say, a brownstone in Manhattan, New York City, round about the same time, we would be we'd be living in the star. I mean, we'd be enjoying, or maybe if we bought a railroad at the turn of last century. It seems like there is a story that says when you buy something that ultimately has value in it, and you hold it, and you hold it, and you invest in it, no doubt, or just sometimes have the patience, good things happen. It almost seems like, but the corollary of that is, if you were to go and buy a brownstone in Manhattan today, would that brownstone be worth that much more in 20 or 30 years? Or did we just live through a weird time, whether it's the 80s, 90s, that will never be back again, and we will never see those kinds of returns? So that's the appreciation. And then there's the elevation, which is to turn a transaction or turn a moment into a memory, to turn a transaction into an experience. And I think somewhere between those two probably sits Ryan Estes and this idea of impact.
Well, I think you're right. I mean, that's a beautiful reflection back to me. I don't know that I necessarily would have articulated it that way, but I think there's a lot of real truth in that. I mean, you know, the appreciation perspective is right. I mean, and you know, that's certainly Warren Buffett's philosophy, right? If you read any of his books, I mean, there is, and so that's, you know, it's one thing about investing, but the second piece of what you said is the elevation. You know, I certainly think that's what the Cowboys did, and it's certainly what I try and do with, you know, the businesses I'm involved in, is that, you know, we're constantly iterating and evolving the experience. And I think, you know, today, I mean, that's an opportunity to, you know, demonstrate and deliver value and turn transactions into relationships, and take something and, you know, create something that's a lot more valuable. And so, you know, I think we're in an interesting time. It's the fourth industrial revolution. You know, technology's changing the world. Our attitudes around work and business have shifted in a post-pandemic world. And I think it's incumbent upon us to think about experience design and the way we design our organizations in a whole new way. And that's part of the thesis, really, the second half of the book. I mean, it's borrowing principles from human-centered design and introducing this thesis on, you know, how to lead high performance teams and high growth enterprises into the future. That is the genesis of human-centered leadership. And the Cowboys serve as, I think, a phenomenal example of the intersection of those two things. Yes, it would have naturally appreciated, but it was the things they did, the experiences they created, the relationships they created, the innovation that ultimately was the catalyst for that type of exponential growth.
And I'm smothering you right now with human-centric coverage and experience of your book. You've got the sponsorship. You've got we're just swimming in it at the moment. Let's define it quickly, or let's have you define this concept of human-centric leadership. What is that?
Yeah, being a human-centered leader really is just about prioritizing people, their values, their ideas, and their experience as what is most important to the long-term success of the enterprise. So a human-centered organization, it focuses on creating better human experiences. It cares as much about the experience of its teams as it does its customers. And it embeds those principles, these ideas, into the fabric of the organization. So considering the human experiences, you know, it really is the catalyst for growth. And it's what we do at my company, Impact 11. It's what the Cowboys did on their journey into creating the star and this incredible evolution into an entertainment organization. And I think it's, what the world's best brands get right. It's what Starbucks is trying to do. It's what Microsoft is trying to do. So they're human-centered leaders creating better human experiences. And I think, technology is a tool that actually can enable and facilitate that. We use it in my business. The Cowboys have used it fabulously. And you see other organizations like a Microsoft that's getting into generative AI, or like a Starbucks that's incorporating into the way they interact with customers. That's the future. It's a powerful tool to create better human experiences.
So I know this is something very close to your heart, but it's this idea of a very simple formula, which is human plus AI equals growth. So the way I look at it, and then I'll let you unpack this in a moment, is we've got man and we've got machine, or man, human, right? A man, woman, person. But for purposes of the alliterative intro, man and machine, you've got this partnership, these partners in crime, this idea of technology plus humanity equals growth. Clearly, I love that concept of returning to growth, something that is very near and dear to my heart. But let's talk a little bit about this partnership, this we willing or unwilling bedfellows here when it comes to the man and the machine working together.
Well, we have to be willing, and because the accelerated pace of the impact that technology is going to have in the way we live and work and roles and functions. I mean, this is a step change by an order of magnitude that I don't think a lot of people realize yet. It is just awe-inspiring about the impact that artificial intelligence is going to have, and is already having, whether you realize it or not. It's already having an effect on your life. And there's threats, no doubt. And you see that talked about. And at some point, the government's going to figure out, how do we regulate it to get our arms around it, or don't? And people are saying, slow it down. And I don't consider myself, a futurist or an AI expert, but I'm using the tools. And I think it can, by an order of magnitude, increase our efficiency, our productivity, our time to impact, our customer experience. But there's still a piece that's required, because as powerful as artificial intelligence is, there are things that it doesn't do, like create intimacy and vulnerable connections and empathy, and those are things that are uniquely and innately human, and we're still social creatures and animals. And so there's going to be a shift. Right. I think, will artificial intelligence replace jobs? It already is. I mean, you can look in the media and look at the news and look at the companies all these tech companies are, conducting layoffs and recording record profits. Why? Artificial intelligence is replacing jobs, full stop. And it's going to create new jobs that we haven't even thought about or realized that it already is. So it's just a shift, just like when the internet came of age. I mean, if you were in business in the really early 90s, and sort of you went through that sort of step change. It was, first it was mobile technology and voicemail, and then when the internet came online, and we're just entering the fourth industrial revolution. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to understand how a powerful tool like this can be leveraged to make us, better versions of ourselves. And so, but there's still art and humanity and sort of relational intelligence. And I love the fact the CEO of Microsoft, who you could make a case, is leading sort of the race to generative AI. He came out and said, in the new world, from a leadership perspective, EQ trumps IQ. Emotional intelligence is the future. And he talks a lot about growth mindset and empathy as traits that are required to lead high performance teams. He's a very human-centered leader. And it's a case study I love, because they've had an extraordinary turnaround and a track record of growth. And today, I mean, they're neck and neck with Apple as the most valuable company in the history of the world. And it's a beautiful example of sort of the intersection of human-centered principles and technology.
In one of my presentations from years gone by, I would talk about this idea of how do you scale humanity? How do you automate intimacy? That to me was, in a way, the question of questions. And And I think part of the answer was you can't. It's not possible. But then I don't know if you've ever heard this before. I'm sure you've seen it. There is a generative AI voice on the other end of a phone call talking to someone and convincing them to buy Apple's Vision Pro. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I haven't seen it, but
it's audio, and what's so insane about this is the voice on the other end. And by the way, the person who is on the other end, it's almost like a cold call. He's like, dude, just back off. I'm not interested. And the voice eventually starts to play up and say, well, why would you do this versus, Facebook's or Meta's option? But what was so interesting in the voice is there were pauses and hesitations and stutters and yeah, okay, and little giggles, and it was freaky and freakishly awesome as well. And so I don't know if this is a term, but I just coined it now, and regardless, but generative selling, AI for selling. Will machines ever be better than humans? Is it just inevitable, Ryan?
I don't think machines are going to be better than humans for complex emotional decisions. I don't. But I think they can replace some of the rote automation to make humans more efficient. So, today, professional B2B enterprise salespeople are only spending about 28% of their time actually selling. They're mired in data entry and administration and proposal creation and all of these other sort of rote tasks that are sort of ancillary to what's core, which is actually time with prospects and customers, helping them make decisions to grow a business. And so I think artificial intelligence can be a tool that hopefully for the best salespeople accelerates an opportunity to do what they're the best in the world at. Then just let me give you an example of this. I think examples are good. So take my business for example. I give a lot of presentations. I do a fair amount of keynote speaking. I write books. I do consulting work. So I'm in the advice business, and you look at Chat GPT, now the advent of these custom GPTs. I could develop Ryan Estes GPT into a chat bot, and Ryan Estes GPT could assimilate pretty much everything I've ever written or said in the last 10 years and be able to engage with you in a way that actually allows me to scale my thought leadership in any time previously would have been impossible. And with a Ryan Estes GPT, you could literally go in and say, Ryan, what are the top 3 best approaches to overcoming price-based objections or resistance? And Ryan GPT could answer that in a very sophisticated, specific way. That's powerful. And so that I think by an order of magnitude would enable me to create more impact, perhaps more customer intimacy, access to my thinking. It could be, and then you could talk about the humanization of you adding voice and other things to that. So that's powerful. It allows me to deliver more value in the exchange with a customer, but it still isn't a replacement for what we're doing right now. And so what I believe, again, it's a tool. And we're planning on, just so you know, like this is happening. I've got a new website in the works. It's in development. It's coming very soon. Q1, it should launch, and we intend to launch it with version 1 of Ryan Estes GPT, where we refer to it in the office as Little AI Ryan. And I'll tell you what, Little AI Ryan's pretty damn smart.
Ryan GPT.
Ryan Estes GPT.
Well, I think it's going to have to look something like this. Maybe Ryan like that with a little AI. Ryan GPT.
That's really good. We hadn't thought of that one yet.
Listen, this is why they pay me the big bucks. But more importantly, I don't care what the machine looks like. It will never have as good hair as you, Ryan, without the AI.
That was about you made my whole week, man. To get hair compliments at this stage in the game, that feels pretty good.
You know what? And I understand what you mean by at this stage of the game,
exactly.
when most of us, there's a reason why the camera is pointed down and not coming from this area. Otherwise, it would, I mean, the glare would be off-putting. It would be like the light, bright light, bright light. You talk about, and we're going to come full circle because we talk about human-centric leadership. We spoke about AI. Right, we spoke about this formula in terms of humans and AI equals growth, and we're talking about generative selling, but really what it comes down to is the quote that I found for you, which is at the end of the day, right? When we don't buy, we buy from people that we trust. Partnership, consultative selling. It is all about the power of relationship, and so this is the quote that I found for you, which is you don't compete on price, you compete on relationships. And I want to ask you a few questions about relationships. This is Patricia Fripp. But first of all, just a general question, which is, if this is true that you don't compete on price, you compete on relationships, how do you convince someone to buy from you when they don't have a relationship from you? Seems like a bit of a catch-22.
I'm not sure I agree with that statement.
Oh, good. You can disagree with it.
Can I? Okay. I didn't mean to, yeah. So
listen, I don't know Patricia Fripp from a bar of soap. So,
Okay, good. I mean, she's part right. What I would say is
which part?
Yeah. Let me evolve this in a way that I think will lead us into this conversation about relationships. So I would replace this quote. One that I think is just a bit more accurate is that customers don't buy on price. They default to price in the absence of value and a quality experience. And so the value exchange and the experience is on us. And the kind of relationship that customers want is fundamentally changing. Sure, it's great to be likable, and that's important, and liking can lead to trusting. But what customers want today is somebody who can create value and deliver value into their business. I would say value creators outperform relationship builders. So we get all enamored with the relationship and being liked, and these old kind of bullshit techniques about mirroring. If the customer has a picture of fishing in their office, ask about fish. Like, forget all that, man. Bring value to the equation. Help deliver outcomes that the customer is obsessed about. View your success through the lens of delivering for the customer. When you lead that way, and you're expert enough to have a real point of view or a position of value that helps the customer make complex decisions and improve their current situation, solve a problem, accelerate their growth, you're going to deliver an experience and build customer relationships that are going to accelerate your success and momentum. That's what top producers do. So of course I want to build great relationships with customers. I have customers long-term customers that are dear friends of mine. I know about their family. We've enjoyed meals together, whatever. But I'm focused on the value exchange. Like, what can I bring or what can I deploy in that business that creates value? And I think helping our customers make decisions that get the outcomes they want is what this is all about. So I wouldn't over-index on the personal relationship, but I just wanted to create that clarification.
And to me, when I think about mirroring, and it's a technique. To me, the way I would not even reconcile, but I would synthesize what you said is the mirroring and all these techniques are outputs, whereas value is an outcome, and outcome has to trump output.
You got that right. That's a great way to say it.
So I want to talk. There's another saying which I didn't use, which is, I mean, it's used all the time, but I wonder if you would disagree with this or agree with it, or to what degree, which is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Are you buying or selling that?
That's nuanced. It depends on the relationship. So one of the things about business that's changed is information is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's not. I don't need information. I don't need information from you. What I need is insight. Help me make sense of the information. We're suffering from information overload, and so people are interested in knowing how you can make sense of the information in a way that is useful to helping me get what I want. If you want to call that caring, sure. It's like be expert enough about not only what you have to offer, but who I am and what I need and what I want. So this is the era of the expert, and I think that's I not to diminish that a customer can feel how much you care about helping that customer get what they want. We use this word customer obsession. Our success is helping our customers succeed. Like I always ask, what does success look like to you? What do you want? What are you trying to solve for? Where do you want to be a year from now? If I can help somebody get there through my solutions portfolio, great. If I can't, then, let's be friends. And that's okay too. So.
I love it. I mean, I really, really love it, because even going back to like this hits home, because
Good.
when we talk about EOS now, we say we help business owners get what they want from their business. And it's just like, it seems weird. It seems like, hey, Ryan, I can help you get what you want from your business.
I mean, that's it. You're helping people. That's what, so just stay on this thread, because all the way back in the beginning, we started with, the discomfort of selling and working for the agency. You felt like manipulate. No, it's in this here. Now we've arrived at a place where what it actually is, it's about an act of service. It's helping someone. It's noble. It's altruistic. Like it's the ultimate act of service. It's the greatest thing you could do for an entrepreneur or small business owner, is help them grow, help them succeed, help them become sustainable, help them solve their hardest problems. Like it's the best way to make a living if you're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Right. So it like anything else. I mean, things can be manipulated or abused or misconstrued. And because there isn't, a formalized degree or a professional certification, it has this sort of stigma associated to it. But there is a skill and competency, no different than the practice of dentistry or the law, that can be studied, activated, practiced, and managed over a period of time to really serve customers. And I think that's how I approach it. I think that we talk about it in the book that way. It's what my company Impact 11 does, and I think it's what the best salespeople in the world do. And when you're doing that, it's very fulfilling. You build these great partnerships. You have relationships that last for years. Your customers refer you and evangelize you and advocate for you. You feel a deep sense of fulfillment because you help somebody get what they want. And there's beautiful reciprocity when it's done the right way.
Yeah, it's win-win, right? And I also love, to me this has been very balanced, this whole conversation, because there's a cadence, there's a from to, there's this idea of talking about outputs and outcomes. And another thing I just heard you say is, to me, it's skill versus stigma, right? It's you choose a path, right? You choose which path you want to go down. And you make a conscious, deliberate, intentional decision. Here's something else. This is I saw this. This is you, Ryan.
It's not. I want to give credit. So it's a Mark Manson quote that I reshared on my.
Yes, it is. It is. That's right. But I saw this on your timeline. Damn it.
Yeah, I reshared it.
And actually, it came from a recent episode on my show with Dr. Mario Martinez as well. And so it's the second time I've now heard it, Mario and Mark and Ryan AI, which is, there's no such thing as I don't have enough time. You always have enough time. You don't have the right priorities. So if this is true, and it is true, how do you respond to someone if you're on a sales call or you're trying to sell to them and they go, I don't have enough time for this? Do you actually come out and call it?
Yeah,
what do you do?
What I would try and do is help. And maybe that's true. I mean, that's another way of saying, I don't have enough time is another way of saying it's not an urgent priority right now. There are other things that are more important. So I would, if I believe that it's a necessity, that actually there is no better time, and if you delay this decision, it's going to hurt you, I would pull on that thread a little bit. And again, I do it with questions. I don't have enough time right now. Tell me more about that. What are the competing priorities? Where else is your focus and resource going? What is the priority of the moment? Where is your time? I'd want to understand that more. And by the way, maybe there's truth to that. Maybe there actually is a critical situation or a priority that is more urgent. I respect that. Then it isn't the right time. I'm not trying to manipulate somebody into having what I need, but I am trying, if I passionately believe that what I have is the right solution right now, and the time is now for critical reasons, I'm going to advance the conversation to make that case. That's my job as an expert, as a consultant, as a strategic advisor. So we can engage in that kind of dialogue, and if necessary, I can push the customer outside of their comfort zone or try and get them to see my worldview. And that's the business of co-creating. Now, I have to earn the right to do that, right? To be that way, to talk that way. But you do it, through a quality relationship, credibility, expertise, and a real value exchange. And so, but it's sort of that quote to me, why it resonated. I think it's true that, you can get what you want in business and in life, but you have to decide what you want, because you can't get everything. And so there's something earnest about focus and prioritization. That's really, really important. It's good business advice. It's good career advice. It's good life advice.
So interesting is the connection back to this idea of getting what you want, because maybe people don't even know what they want. That's your point, right? You know what? That's a good question. I don't know what I want. I guess I haven't taken the time to think about it. I'm not even sure I know what I want anymore, because I'm just constantly chasing my tails and yada, yada, yada.
There's so much depth that we could have done the whole hour on just that idea.
No doubt.
And so part of what I'm doing, if I'm ever, and I don't do a ton of it anymore, but if I do take on a coaching client or do a few sessions with an executive or CEO, this idea of deciding what you want, getting crystal clear in your vision, taking dead aim, it is an imperative, and it's often where we start. And what I've found is there's a great book by David Brooks called The Second Mountain. And you run into this a lot, and this was certainly my experience, is, you set out on this path, as you begin your career, sort of your adult life, and however you sort of directionally move forward, you begin your climb up that first mountain. And that could be career, family, business, entrepreneurship, the arts, whatever it is to you. It's different for every individual. But often, and I've encountered this a lot, and a lot of successful people, they're like, okay, that's my summit, I'm going there. And then they get at or around there and look around, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I thought this was supposed to make me, that was going to be the thing. That was my utopia. That was where all of my peace and fulfillment and happiness was going to be found. And I'm kind of around that, and that's not it. So if it's not that, what is it? And that, that's the man's search for meaning. Some people call that a dark night of the soul. Some people call that an awakening or a reckoning. But it is sort of examining and getting to those deeper levels or layers of truth about, well, what is it? And I'm not the person that should tell you what it is. That's for you to figure out. But I think it's useful to have a guide on that journey to the figuring, because what you said was, well, most people don't even know what they want. And how do you get what you want if you don't even really know what it is. So it's one of my axioms is decide what you want. Like really think about that. Get crystal clear, because odds are you might be able to have it, but make sure that's what you want.
Be sure to catch the best-selling book that is yet to be released by Ryan AI GPT called Who Moved My Mountain? Forget about the cheese. We're talking about mountains here, from molehills to cheese hills to mountains.
I've got a lot of writing in my future after this conversation. Oh my God.
And the good news is that Ryan AI will do it all for you. But right now, if you really want to understand what expert sellers do differently to capture share of market, there's only one thing you should be doing, which is, there we go, preparing for impact. Brace yourself for impact, making an impact on the lives of those customers that don't even know you exist yet, but will be grateful for having met you, for you coming into their lives, for the outcomes, the value and utility. And it all begins by purchasing Ryan and Chad, who apparently may be an AI version. We don't know for sure.
Not yet.
But not yet. But we are attempting to bottle his consciousness and put it into a jar. Please follow Ryan on X. He's Ryan Estes on everything, on Instagram, LinkedIn, MetaBook. And besides buying the book, please go check out Impact 11, his professional development company, and RyanEstes.com, the new improved website coming soon to a browser near you. I will tell you one person who is the most expert seller in the whole world, Ryan, only because if you don't buy from him, he'll probably beat you up, is Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
I'd buy that.
I'm telling you, you have no choice. And we'll be back soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.